Hello, in today's foundation roundup, I have 7 drugstore foundations to review and give you my thoughts on. This is my first all drugstore foundation roundup. I've reviewed a lot of foundations over the past few months, so be on the lookout very shortly for another foundation roundup coming that will be a mix of both high-end and drugstore, but I had enough that I could do an all drugstore one for the first time ever. Most of these are fairly new releases. A few are new to me that you've been asking me about. I've tested each of these out for several days. I'm going to show you what they look like on my skin, share my experience, and share what skin types I think they'd be best for. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new. I test out a lot of foundations, concealers, primers, face products here on my channel because I'm in my mid-40s, and as we get older, it becomes harder and harder to find good products that work with our skin. So let's go ahead and get into these foundations and see which worked out and which didn't. If you don't know my skin type before we get started, you should know that. I am 46 years old. I live in a very hot and humid climate. I always test these foundations out for several days. I don't do first impressions. I don't think that's very helpful because things can change day to day, and I like to test things with different primers, different powders, without a primer, and using different application methods. I am someone who does have to set with powder, but I do show you each foundation without powder because I know some people don't like to set with powder. I have oily combination skin, but I do get some surface dehydration. So finding a balance of foundations that don't make me shiny as the day goes on, but don't exacerbate the dryness that sometimes shows up can be a challenge. All of my usual primers and powders that I test my foundations with are listed in the drop-down description box below the video, along with everything I talk about and show and am wearing in the video. I'm going to start with the foundation that's on my face, which is the only powder foundation in this video. This is the Maybelline Superstay Full Coverage Powder Foundation. This retails for $11.99 for 0.18 ounces. Now keep in mind it's a powder foundation, so you're getting less than you would in, say, a liquid foundation. There are 12 complexion matching shades. I am in the shade 220 Natural Beige. I think it's a great match. This is supposed to give you full matte coverage that lasts all day. You're seeing me apply this to half of my face with a brush just to show you the initial coverage that you can get. Now, when I apply powder foundation, my under eye concealer is already on, which is opposite from when I apply liquid foundation. So just keep that in mind as we go through the video. I don't notice a scent with this product at all. I think with a brush, it applies really nicely, smoothly, quickly. And with a brush, I think you can get light, medium to medium coverage. You can see how it evens out my skin, but you're not getting that full coverage that it claims. It feels really lightweight on the skin. So I found to build that coverage, it was better and faster and quicker for me to use a sponge. You could use the sponge they include in here. You can use your own sponge. I usually use my own, and I find it builds really nicely and quickly. It still feels very lightweight, and I would say the coverage builds up to almost full. I don't think it's quite full because you can still see some imperfections, but it's close. I would say a solid medium full, maybe slightly above that. My pores look nice. It doesn't really, to me, look like powder foundation. This is what it looks like once my makeup is completely done. This is powder and foundation in one, so you're not going to see that before and after I set it because we're not setting it. It looks pretty and matte. My pores look nice. It doesn't really look like powder. It definitely doesn't look heavy. Something you may or may not be able to see on the clip is on the left side of my chin, I have some dryness that's kind of visible. If I used a brush to apply this, it would kind of kick it up. That's not something I think is just going on with this powder foundation though. If you're using a brush, you are buffing it against your skin and you're just more apt to kick up those dry spots. When I used a sponge with this and pressed it into the skin, I didn't have that problem. So the reason why I wanted to show you the clip that I showed you from this morning is because I did a little bit of both. So you could see that, you know, that can happen. It can happen to anyone that has dryness with a matte type of powder foundation. It looks nice and matte, just like the claims say when I first start out my day. I would say it stays like that for a couple of hours, no matter what primer I use with this. And even if I use a setting spray, which is something I have to do a lot with powder foundations, I get shine breakthrough. So the matte claim does not really stay true for me for this foundation, except for an hour or two after I apply it, and then it kind of goes downhill. Now keep in mind that a lot of different things come into play when we're talking about foundations. The climate we live in, our skin type, our skin chemistry, the skincare we use. I live in a very humid environment and I have combination skin that skin gets oily in the T-zone. So those two things combined could be why this is doing what it does. If you have a similar skin type to me, but you live in a drier climate, this might work really well for you. Just because something doesn't work for me or does work for me doesn't mean you're gonna have the same experience. So who do I think would benefit the most from this? I would say someone with normal skin that doesn't have a lot of surface dryness, and possibly combination oily if you live in a drier climate than I do. Let's go into one of the viral foundations we have in this foundation roundup. This is the L'Oreal True Match Nude Hyaluronic Tinted Serum. I wanted to know if this was worth all the hype. I could not find my shade anywhere to save my life. That is another story. I'll talk about that here in a second. So this retails for $19.99. L'Oreal is pretty proud of their foundations. They're a little bit higher in price than other drugstore foundations. I know you can find them on sale sometimes, but I also wanted to know if this was worth the price. It is 1 ounce. There are 10 shades created to work across multiple skin tones. The shade that I have is 4 to 5. You'll notice I say the shade I have, not the shade that I should be. So again, I'll talk about that here in a second. So this is makeup and skincare all in one. It's also the first tinted serum that's got 1% hyaluronic acid that's supposed to keep the skin really hydrated. It's also supposed to even the skin tone and instantly brighten the skin and brighten the complexion over time with luminous mineral pigments. I do notice a little bit of a scent to this, but I feel like I read that this was fragrance free. Sometimes that scent can just be the natural products that are inside and they don't mask it with added fragrance. So keep that in mind just if you happen to see fragrance free and you notice fragrance in a product. You need to shake this before you apply it. The consistency is runny, but it's not super watery and it applies very quickly and very easily, no matter what method I use. My fingers, a brush, a sponge. I like applying it with my fingers. It gave, nice light coverage. I do like applying it with a dry sponge as well. I'm not a huge fingers application person when it comes to foundation, so a lot of times I'll use a dry sponge because I don't lose coverage that way. Now the shade you're seeing me apply is shade 4 to 5. It is too deep, but I wanted to review this for you, so I picked it up anyway, but I feel like it blended in. I was able to make it work. I took it down my neck, but this shade will not work for me in the winter. If I had to get it again, I would get shade 3 to 4. This gives a lovely soft radiant finish to my skin and my pores look really nice yet realistic. It just is a really great skin-like serum foundation. Even though this gives light to light medium coverage at best, I feel like because of how it blurs, it seems to cover more. It feels super lightweight on the skin. So I do get a little bit of shine breakthrough as the day goes on, but it doesn't look greasy or bad. And sometimes if that happens with foundations when I get shiny during the day, I can start to feel the foundation, especially serum foundations. I haven't had tremendous luck with a lot of serum foundations because I get overly oily, shiny with them. I was expecting that to happen with this. I really was expecting this to be overhyped. I am shocked at how much I like it. My makeup wears really well, even if I do get shine breakthrough. It blots easily. It touches up well with translucent powder. It's really flattering on my skin. I would say the drawback for me, which is so minor, is that the dropper can get kind of goopy and messy, which has nothing to do with how the foundation looks or wears. I just always feel like my makeup looks good. I can wear this on hot, humid days. I'm just so surprised at how much I enjoy this, especially since it's a serum foundation and I haven't had luck with those. So for me, this has been one of those products that has been worth the hype. I would actually say there's another drawback to this, and that is finding it in the shade that you need. It took me forever just to even get this to test because I couldn't find it and I still didn't find the shade that I wanted, but I found something that was acceptable. I'll try to source everything I can in this video. There's just a couple of things that I've had a little bit of difficulty doing so, but I'll do the best I can. So who do I think would benefit from this the most? I really think that this is great for all skin types. I mean, of course, there's going to be people that like it. There's going to be people that don't, but I am in the camp that likes it. Okay, now it's time for a foundation that you have been asking me to try for a long time, and I finally tried it. This is the Catrice True Skin Hydrating Foundation. This retails for $11 for 1.01 ounce. There are 20 shades, and I am in the shade 20 Warm Beige. This cap is on crooked, but here's the pump. This is vegan and cruelty-free, and this is supposed to be long-wearing and give medium to full buildable coverage, and it's supposed to give your skin a real skin finish. finish, thus the name. It's got hyaluronic acid and some other good ingredients in it. The consistency of this is pretty runny. I wasn't expecting that. Just like I do most medium to full coverage foundations, I like applying this best with a damp sponge. I would say this gives a soft matte, kind of a velvety matte finish. It's definitely not a flat matte and it's not heavy looking. It's very flattering and looks great on my pores. And I do agree that the coverage is buildable from medium to full, and yet it feels lightweight. This is very long wearing. It looks good all day. I barely had to blot at all. And because of the finish and the way it applies, I really think this is a great foundation for all skin types. Even though it's a soft matte finish, I feel like it would really flatter normal to dry skin too. It didn't ever bother any of my dehydrated areas. I did try applying it with a brush. It applied very nicely. I think the drawback to this is finding your shade. Again, it's kind of a common theme with some of the foundations in this video. Even though it's been out for a while, it's still a really popular foundation. The selection is pretty slim on their website too, but this is a really, really pretty foundation. I see why you wanted me to try it, and I'm sorry that I waited so long. It's been a while since I've tried a foundation from Neutrogena, but they have this relatively new clear coverage flawless matte CC cream. I've seen it retail anywhere from $11 to $13 for 1 ounce. There are 34 shades. The shade that I have is 5.0 Fawn. So this is supposed to give a matte finish and be full coverage, and it was developed specifically for problematic acne-prone skin. It has no oil, no fragrance, no parabens, and it does have niacinamide, which helps a lot of people keep their skin clear and minimize the pores. Now, some people are sensitive to niacinamide, so obviously if you're sensitive to it, don't use this, but it does help a lot of us. And being that it's a CC cream, it's supposed to color correct to mask any imperfections and even the skin tone. I would say this has a lotiony texture. On your right side, I'm using my fingers to apply it, to rub it in kind of like a lotion, and on your right side, I'm using a dry sponge. I prefer the dry sponge. I just feel like it looks more flattering and it was quicker for me to apply it that way. I would say it gives a natural finish before I set my makeup. It doesn't really look matte, but it just looks, you know, like a natural skin finish. My pores look normal. It doesn't really blur my skin texture, but after my makeup is finished, my pores look nice and it gives a soft matte finish. Now, I would say this gives medium to medium full coverage as opposed to the full coverage that it claims. I could not build this up to full coverage. I don't mind that though. I'm not really a full coverage person on a day-to-day basis. It feels very lightweight on the skin, which is what I look for in a foundation. Even on long days, no matter if I wore it with or without a primer, I feel like it wore really well. I mean, you could see some signs of wear, but it still looked good. I mean, given my climate and the fact that I've been wearing a mask on most of those days, that's kind of to be expected that you're gonna see some signs of wear. And given all of that, I wasn't expecting this to still hold up, and I feel like it holds up decently with or without a primer. Now, if you have dry skin, I don't think this is going to be ideal for you. It may make you feel a little bit dry. I think this is best for normal to oily skin, especially if you're looking for something that feels lightweight. Now, I've already shown the Wet n Wild Bare Focus Tinted Hydrator in another video. I'll link that video down below. So some of you may be spoiled about how I feel about this already, but I wanted to be a little bit more thorough and show you a little bit more in this video. So this retails for around $5. This is, I believe, the least expensive foundation in this foundation roundup. But unlike most of the other foundations and tints in this video, there is less than 1 ounce. There are 0.19 ounces in this bottle here. There are 12 shades and I am in the shade light medium. This is vegan and cruelty free. It's also oil free. Because this has hyaluronic acid and vegan squalane, this is supposed to be an all-in-one perfector and hydrator in one, which is why I was a little bit surprised that this had such a thick consistency. On your left, I'm using a dry sponge and I find it gives light to medium skin light coverage. And on your right, I am using my fingers and I find that when I use my fingers, it gives a more sheer skin light coverage. More for days when I want to just even out my skin tone and spot conceal. I find I can build this from sheer to almost medium depending on how I apply it. It gives a semi-matte, natural skin-like finish that looks great on my pores. It's very long wearing. It looks good all day. I don't need to blot hardly at all with it. The clip that you're seeing here is from 7 hours after I applied it when I'm talking during a video, and it still looks really good. I think this would be great for any skin type. Again, it's going to depend on other factors. This was a nice surprise for me. I'm really glad I tried it. I had a lot of you ask me to try it. I finally did, and I'm really glad. This has been a hit for me. We have another foundation also from L'Oreal. This is the L'Oreal Skin Paradise Water Infused Tinted Moisturizer. It retails for $16.99. L'Oreal is proud of their foundations. There is 1 ounce in this tube. There are 12 shades and my shade is Light 03. It is not light. You'll see that here in a second. So this claims to be lightweight and give natural coverage with up to 24 hours of hydration. It also has SPF 19. Which I think is just a joke. I don't even know why they put it in here, because to even get sunscreen protection out of a foundation or a skin tint, you have to pile it on, and 19, just why? It's oil-free, it's suitable for sensitive skin. It's also a water blend, 70% with witch hazel and aloe vera. And it's supposed to have this unique water breaking technology when it comes in contact with the skin that gives you that 24-hour hydration and a fresh feel right from the start. So this has kind of a thick consistency. It's not really runny, but it's not really moussey either. I can apply this just fine with any method. I prefer to apply it with my fingers, kind of like a lotion, and then refine it with a sponge. I don't know, I just liked that method the best. And I feel like you can see that the shade that I'm applying is not as described, which is Light 03. So I'm typically light medium in foundations, and I bought this based on the description that they gave. I would say this is straight up medium, and it is yellow toned, way too yellow toned for me, and just medium, not even light medium. So keep that in mind. I would definitely go much lighter in this product than you think you need. Prior to setting, my pores look okay with this. It's pretty dewy, I would say actually very dewy. And this clip is from about an hour after I applied my makeup and doing a bit of work. And you know, I think it looks pretty good. It feels nice and hydrating at first. I don't really notice that hydration though, that 24-hour hydration as the day gets on. It just feels like makeup. And I think part of that reason is because of how it wears on me. It wears terribly. I get very, very oily super quickly. It also wears away on my nose, mouth, and chin area, even when I'm just sitting at home doing nothing. No matter what primer I wear with it, if I wear it without a primer, no matter what I set it with, it just is not good with me and my skin type. Don't know why. And I think I don't get that fresh hydration feel from it because my oil breaks through and it just won't allow me to feel fresh. Who do I think this is best for? I would have to say, based on my experience, normal to dry skin. This just does not wear well for me at all. I would love to know your experience with this or any other foundation in this video. Let me know down below. I know some of you are going to have complete opposite experiences than I do. This one did not do it for me. Now we have a second Maybelline product that's kind of a foundation. It's kind of not. It's a multitasker, but I felt like I needed to include it in this video since a lot of people have been trying it out as a foundation. So this is the Maybelline Instant Age Rewind Instant Perfector 4-in-1 Glow Makeup. That's a mouthful. This retails for $12.99 for 0.68 ounces. There are 5 shades, and I grabbed the shade 01 Light because I kind of intended to use it only as a highlighter. I think if I was going to wear this as a foundation, I would go a little bit deeper, but we'll talk about this as a foundation. This claims to prime, conceal, highlight, and even out the skin tone, and all of those shades are supposed to span various skin tones and self-adjust so that they do blend into your skin tone, which is why I think Light worked pretty decently when I tried it out. Now, some people are saying that this is a dupe for Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter. I did try this out as a foundation, a primer, underneath my eyes, and as a highlighter. So this has a thin, lotiony consistency. I do like that I can just draw on my face with a sponge tip and then blend it out with a dry or a damp sponge. This is the one liquid foundation that I took underneath my eyes because I do like to use that Charlotte Tilbury product. Also the L'Oreal Glotion, which I do think is a great dupe for Charlotte Tilbury. I take that underneath my eyes, kind of mix it in with my concealer. It's just a really flattering thing to do. I would say using it all over the face, whether you're using it as a primer or as a foundation, it's buildable from sheer to light coverage. It's not enough coverage to use it underneath my eyes at all, as if you're using it as a foundation and you want to take it underneath your eyes. You can see before setting, it gives a very glowy finish. It looks natural in that it doesn't really camouflage the pores though. After setting, it gives a radiant natural sheen. I would say it's less of a natural looking sheen than the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter gives. It doesn't really camouflage the porous and smooth in the same way for me either. So I would say about 2 or 3 hours after wearing, I just start to get really shiny. I blot and try to touch up with translucent powder, and a couple hours later, the same thing happens. It just happens over and over and over. This is just too glowy of a product for me to wear as a foundation or a primer. Now, when using it as a highlighter, I do like to apply it with my fingers because I feel like I have a little bit more control. I found that it can remove my makeup if I apply it over powder. So for that reason, this particular liquid highlighter, I like to apply it directly over my foundation before I set anything with powder. I love Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter. I find it gives a really smooth, natural finish. It smooths skin texture really nicely, blurs pores, gives a hint of a highlight, and I can't feel it. It's really lightweight. This seems to accentuate things I don't like as the day goes on and removes my makeup underneath. I don't know. I just wasn't a big fan of this. I know everybody kind of went crazy for it. It was a viral product. I prefer L'Oreal Glotion. I've shown that as being a dupe for Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter. I think it's a much better dupe than this, but I wanted to give you my perspective on this because I hadn't done that yet. I know there are some people that are really enjoying this. I think if you have dry skin and you like a really radiant look, or something that's really sheer that gives you some radiance, this might work for you. It just was not the product for me. I'll have my September favorites and fails linked here if you haven't seen that yet. I have some great and not so great products in that video. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and be sure to subscribe if you're not already so you don't miss future videos, including my next foundation roundup that has some really great high-end and drugstore foundations in it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!